How's it going?
Pretty good.
Yeah? How are the practices going?
Good.
Good. Good?
Yes.
For me, because years ago I did transcendental meditation.
Great.
It was too much time. But anyway,
Yes.
one of the things that I noticed is, especially today, when we spend so much time on the computer, when you just close your eyes, you get the relief from the eye strain.
Oh, yeah.
That's a biggie.
Yeah. Yeah. How is just sitting for 3 to 5 minutes for you? Is that not enough? Considering does it feel like it's too short of amount of time for you?
No, you mean this?
Yes.
No, because if you're watching TV and there's a commercial,
Right.
you don't have to be committed
Right.
to 20 minutes or 30 minutes.
Right.
You just say, okay, I was at work, I was looking at the computer, I'm watching TV or whatever. So you take a little bit of a.
Yes. Yeah, you can weave it in, especially these micropractices. Hi, I'm good. How are you? Good. What else? Anybody else? Feedback on how's it going for you?
I did have done a few of the meditations on the Insight app, and some have been good, and some have been like, and it could have just been where I was, that I had a hard time settling my mind.
Right.
But then this morning I did it where I just used the timer, and I didn't have a guided meditation at all.
Good.
It's just more like, being
What's
present,
here,
breathing, all of that. And that was good, although I did, I got through 2 minutes before I looked to see what time it was. And then I went back, and closed my eyes and did another 2 minutes,
It's definitely an urge. You get these urges to, so the idea is when you feel that urge to come up, not to let yourself drop into that. Okay. So really watch the urge to look or fidget or, or feed any of the distractions that are coming up or desires, right?
Okay.
Grasping, that sort of thing. Okay. And instead of just sitting with, oh, I really, really, really want to do this, right? See if you could feel where it is in your body, like where that urge is. So try to create a sense of curiosity by turning into the body, because you'll be surprised to see that 9 times out of 10, you'll feel something really intense inside your body, where your body's responding to that emotional trigger or mental trigger of the distraction, whatever it is. Okay. So that's a way out, right? So this is coming up for me, craving, we can call it whatever, distraction, grasping, remembering, thinking, planning, right? Whatever it is that's coming up, try to name it. So give it a word. Okay. And then look in the body and see where the body's holding it. Okay. So you'll be really surprised. I was leading a training last week, and we were doing the training remotely and to a large group. I had 50 people on the call, and I had on my door in my office. I was in my office because there's better internet there, and I had on the door, do not disturb, right? Doors locked. Right. And don't you know, in the middle of the training, during one of the meditations, somebody's trying to get in. And so I'm leading the meditation with 50 people. And, obviously, part of being a teacher is that you have to be really present with, and it's a little more challenging when you're doing it remotely because there's technology also. So you have to kind of get over the technology and kind of really visualize your audience as being in front of you in order to connect with them, which is a hard skill to cultivate, right? So, of course, I hear, this person trying to come in, and then I hear my dad. My dad works at my husband's office, where my office is, and, all this commotion, and I just said, okay, distraction, as I'm leading the training, and then I looked in my body, and I could feel this rage, right? Yeah. Anger, right? And so I'm leading them, and I'm also trying to work with what's going on inside of me. right? And it was so intense. And what ended up calming it down is I said, like it was hot and fiery. And as soon as I said that word fire, like in my mind, and just like cooled it down a little, it started dissipating. But sometimes the body needs to be acknowledged in these practices for that sensation, for that distraction to fully leave. But that's the key. You'll experience that. You'll start experiencing that. So not that you did it wrong. That's so normal. I mean, you're not going to know these things unless, okay, I looked and then I went back in, and that's great. That's what your experiences should be like in the beginning. So now next time, just notice that urge,
right,
and really resist it.
okay,
Because that's what's going to build your capacity to stay.
right,
And that's what we're trying to do, is stay in the discomfort of whatever's coming up right now. And so that's uncomfortable when we want to look, right? We're feeling bored, right? So this is the week. So we're kind of getting into some of the lessons today. But this is the week where we'll instead of saying pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, or positive, negative, or neutral, we're going to now say, oh, there's the distraction. What is it? Right? So what is this distraction? And that it's really powerful to name it. Right? So that's how we begin to notice what's happening and what's real. All right, awesome. Anybody else want to share before we move into some of the content? It's super helpful though when people share, because we're having similar experiences, and sometimes those experiences are difficult to describe, right? So whenever you have a question, please ask as we go through today even, because someone else I guarantee will have that same question, or you'll you'll express it in a way that they have a realization that that's what they were experiencing. So we are all, at the end of the day, going to have similar experiences in these practices, because we're having this human experience. So that's a really great way to get started today. So I just wanted to kind of go over some of the stuff we've been going through over the last week. I'm curious or 2 weeks, I'm curious to know if anyone used any of the methods to support the practice. So we mentioned last time that whisper, the mantra. Did you guys use that whisper?
You just brought it up. You really didn't incorporate it with the breathing.
Okay, so let's practice, and we'll add that in as a tool to start using. And we are going to get into more tools this week. So we're going to really focus the next 2 weeks on steadying our attention more by using method and acknowledging our experiences in a more concrete way so that we can start using them. So you spent the last 2 weeks noticing and getting to know your breath and the qualities of the breath and what's here right now, and feeling that breath move in and out of your body. So understanding the touch of the breath. And how has that been, the touch of the breath landing?
good.
Do you notice that it's different most days, that you feel it somewhere else, or are you feeling it in the same area?
I sort of notice that I forget to breathe.
Okay,
I'm realizing
that's
when I'm
good.
breathing, and then if my mind wanders, at all, I realize I'm not breathing. I wasn't
Right.
taking in the breath. If you sort of follow that.
Right, that's good. That's good to notice that you're not there. That's at least the idea is to notice what's happening, right? So noticing absence of breath is also a method, right? Good. Anybody else with noticing different things in the body, the touch of the breath? Okay. Bob, can you hear me okay? Let's see. Bob, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Very clearly.
He might not be at his desk.
Okay.
It's okay. I'm going to keep him unmuted just in case, so if he has a question. All right. So I'm going to sit. I'll just move this over, and we're going to start our practice. So now we're getting into some method, but the purpose of these methods are still the same. So remember we talked last time about concentrating. So we're steadying the attention. we're steadying the mind, and we're starting to steady the heart. And without this steadiness, without the ability to concentrate our attention and mind, it's harder for us to get into the more contemplative parts of the practice. So all of what we're doing right now, it may seem a little boring because it is very similar in what we're asking you to do every day, but it is the foundation of going deeper. It will be the foundation of your practice for the rest of your life. So you could just continue to cultivate the steadiness and ease in concentration methods for the rest of your life. And you could become a completely enlightened being doing these things. However, there's more there. So we're interested to see what else is there as well, and what our capacities can be complete, when they're completed or wholehearted. But I don't want you to feel like, by focusing back on these methods over the next 2 weeks, notice if you are bored, or if that thought comes up, and just acknowledge it. Bored, right? Bored, right? I'm bored, and let that help yourself to understand what boredom feels like right now, and just see if you can create a little space around it. That's the idea, right? All right, so sitting up nice and tall. Remember, we want to ground the feet and come away from the back of the chair if your spine feels supported there. So I know that we mentioned if there is low back pain, if you do need more support, to roll up a blanket or a pillow, or they even have those ergonomic pillows that you could use for sitting. Yeah, so feel free to use that if you need it. Hands on your lap and feet grounded. Just close your eyes. Just landing here in the breath. I'm going to use my timer, so you'll hear some fidgeting for a moment. So just bring your attention now to your body sitting. Your sit bones grounded. That's touching the ground or your seat, and see if you can land heavier in that foundation of sitting. Just really dropping your body weight into your seat. Especially into your hips. Notice your spine reaching up out of the hips. The crown of the head gently reaching up to the sky. And notice if that's created a little more space, especially in the low back. You might even notice a gentle lift through the sternum, through heart center. And see if you could just exhale, releasing the shoulders back and down with the next breath out. You might need a few more breaths here, just relaxing any tension in the shoulders, back of the neck. And now opening your field of awareness to include any sounds around us in our space right now. Any sounds outside of the space, sounds of traffic. sounds of life happening around us, just allowing that to be the backdrop for the practice right now. Notice how the sounds are layered. So there's some subtle sounds around you. Notice how there's far away sounds that pull us away. There's sound right here in the space. And now see if you can go below that sound in our space. Just opening up to the senses for just a moment. Letting your attention be there. Now gently turn your attention into the breath. Just as it is right now, moving in and out of your body. Noticing the texture and depth. Notice if the breath feels full or shallow. And now notice where the breath is landing for you inside most acutely. Where can you feel the breath? The touch of the breath, just dropping all of your attention there. The mind starts to wander. Just notice that it's wandered and gently return back to the anchor of the breath. Now we'll invite in a mantra for practice. This whisper of the mantra will only hold about 5% of the attention. 95% of your attention will still be on the breath, moving in and out, the anchor of the breath. With the next breath in, the whisper is peace. With the next breath out, the whisper is stress. We're inviting in peace with the next inhale. And we're letting go of stress or tension with the next exhale. Notice the light touch of the mantra, how it works with and supports your attention in the breath. Notice if the mind has been pulled away from the anchor, from the mantra, any distraction, pulling you away from full presence, and gently returning back. Just allow yourself to soften any effort, allowing the mantra to quietly settle. Allowing your attention or focus of the breath to lighten. Returning back to the senses, back to the space. Bringing your attention back now into your body. Noticing the quality of the mind in this moment. And just bringing your right hand to heart center, your belly, and your left hand on top of right. Just take 3 full breaths. Emptying the breath completely on the exhale. And then just dropping your gaze down, tucking your chin, allowing the eyes to open and light flood back in, and then gently returning back to the day, back to our time together. Okay, so you guys sat for 12 minutes. Yeah. Did it feel like 12 minutes? Right. So that's what we're working up to. So we'll start working with 12 minutes in all of our time together, because you can do it. It's a little harder when you're on your own with the timer. So we build up to that. But 12 minutes is a really substantial amount of time to cultivate mindfulness, to cultivate present moment awareness. It gives our systems enough time to really land and settle in the meditation. So there's a quality of presence and being that that's a little harder to maintain with just a short 3 to 5 minute practice as the formal practice. Mm-hmm. Those are still always going to be with you as micro practices when you need them, or if you just simply don't have enough time, right? If you're just having a busy morning, right? Or evening, or whenever you're fitting your practice in, you could always settle into that 3 to 5 minutes. But to really build our capacities to be with discomfort and to really retrain the brain to stay, that 12-minute time is really wonderful. And it's something I lean into regularly. So my practice is now a little longer in the mornings and evenings. But when I feel like I have a lot going on, a lot of busyness, in a lot of different directions, I'll practice 6 to 12 minutes throughout the day a couple times. And that 12-minute time frame is usually exactly what it takes just to really drop into myself again, right? So when I feel like I'm pulled away, when I feel like things are hard, right? That 12 minutes is great, right? So the reason we work with these 6, 12, 18, 24, 24 minutes is a Tibetan method of practicing a meditation. It's very traditional. It's from the Tibetan Buddhists are Mahayana Buddhists, and their practices are very heart-centered, and they're interested in cultivating these practices for the goal of becoming a bodhicitta. And a bodhicitta is an enlightened being that wants everyone else to also be awake. So that's what their practice is, right? That's why they practice meditation. They want everyone's heart and mind open in the world. So it is a more worldly view. And when they sit to meditate, they're doing it for all beings everywhere to wake up, right? And be in present moment awareness for the health of the planet, for the health of society, and for the health of the beings doing the practices. So it's a really beautiful way to think about the practice, right? So we're going to talk about that a little bit and about cultivating motivation to keep us going and what is meaningful for you. There are 4 practices that we'll be weaving in over the next 7 weeks together. And the first practice that we'll be working on over the next 2 weeks is called the practice of cultivating preciousness into your day. Okay? So dropping the seed of preciousness as the first thought as you wake up in the morning, upon waking your eyes, right? So it might be helpful, when I started practicing preciousness as in a formal way, I wrote it on just a little sticky note and I put it on my bedside table, right? Until it became more of a habit. So you could do that. You could just tape it on the wall or on your mirror in your bathroom, somewhere that upon waking, you'll see it, and just think of one precious thing about right now. So upon waking, what is it that's precious about your life? So I wanted to share a reading with you, and this is from Mark Nepo. Does anyone follow him, Mark Nepo? He's a beautiful writer, poet, and I think you'll enjoy it. So this is a writing on the preciousness of a human birth, and this is from his book, The Book of Awakening. Of all things that exist, we breathe and wake and dip into a song. There is a Buddhist precept that asks us to be mindful of how rare it is to find ourselves in human form on earth. It is really a beautiful view of life that offers us the chance to feel enormous appreciation for the fact that we are here as individual spirits with consciousness, drinking water, and chopping wood. It asks us to look about at the ant and the antelope, at the worm and the butterfly, at the dog and the castrated bull, at the hawk and the wild, lonely tiger, at the 100-year-old oak and the 1,000-year-old patch of ocean. It asks us to understand that no other life form has the consciousness of being that we are privileged to. It asks us to recognize that all the endless species of plants and animals and minerals that make up the earth, a very small portion of life has the wakefulness of spirit that we call being human. That I can rise from some depth of awareness is to express this to you, and that you can receive from me in this instant a part of our precious human birth. You could have been an ant. I could have been an anteater. You could have been rain. I could have been a lick of salt. But we were blessed in this time, in this place, to be human beings alive in rare ways we often take for granted. All of this to say, this precious human birth is unrepeatable. So what will you do today knowing that you are one of the rarest forms of life to ever walk the earth? How will you carry yourself? What will you do with your hands? What will you ask, and of whom? Tomorrow you could die and become an ant, and someone will be setting traps for you. But today you are precious and rare and awake. It ushers us into grateful living. It makes hesitation useless. Grateful and awake, ask what you need to know now. Say what you feel now. Love what you love now. So there's one for each of you on the handout. And we'll send one in the email that you'll receive after class, the link. Mark Nepo, this is a beautiful book, and his field notes on living, things that join the sea and sky. And there's just little, just absolutely beautiful readings in this. And it's something that I like to just look at. I look at it probably a couple times a week, here and there, and just pick a reading out. And it's just absolutely perfect, typically. So he's one of those writers that, he's a mindfulness practitioner, and he's Jewish, and he's just an absolutely beautiful being that shares from his heart. So it's a wonderful support for the practices, and a wonderful way to just tap in. Whenever we're sharing human experience is a way to tap in, right? So just opening up to poetry and art and music and whatever it is that helps you feel connected and alive is something that you can weave in to these experiences, because it'll make you feel supported, and it'll help open you to any sensations inside that wake you up, right? So that's what we're looking for. We're looking to be awake, because when we're pulled away from present moment awareness, we're in almost like a dream. It's almost like a movie or a trance of being, and it's not real. So the mind, remember, and notice how when I talk about the mind, it's interesting to not talk about the mind as my mind or my thoughts. So just trying to separate that a little, and just thinking about consciousness as who you really are, the essence of you, and having a mind that thinks in this body that walks and moves and dances and runs, right? And then we kind of begin to see ourselves as something bigger, right? So we could give the mind a tool like we just did in our practice. By working with the breath, the anchor of the breath becomes a tool to steady the mind. Working with the mantra, the whisper, becomes another tool to help steady the mind. And then the mind quiets down because it has a job. Because the mind wants to be in control of our experiences. It helps, that's what we need as a baby coming into the world, right? We need to start being in control of life in order to be nurtured, and in order to grow healthily, not only in the body, but in the emotions and the mind. So the mind tries to control the environment. So it becomes more predictable. Go ahead.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how the mind is in fight or flight mode so much.
Absolutely.
And how by taking it out of that, you know, it allows for more creative thinking.
Absolutely. And that's definitely what we're doing in these practices. So if any stress that we're under, whenever we're having stress in any way, right, at any time, the body's responding to that stress. The breath is responding to that stress. It's a part of our evolution as a species. It's why we survived the caveman years, right? So it was that necessary function so that instead of putting our energy into bodily functions, the body could redirect energy into the largest muscles of the body to run away from the tigers, right? To fight the tiger or whatever was the threat at the time. So our bodies will naturally shift us into this fight or flight mode, which I'm sure all of you have heard of, right? And what that feels like. But what's actually happening in the body is the body starts releasing hormones. Cortisol, adrenaline starts pumping through the system, and all of the blood in the body starts being directed into your legs, your glutes, you know, in order to get away from danger or to freeze us there. So fight, flight, or freeze is what happens to the system. When these chemicals flood the system, they cut us off completely from the prefrontal cortex. It moves us into that lizard part of the brain, right? Where we started, evolutionary, where our mind started there as a very simple part of the brain, but we've evolved into conscious beings. And now we lose access to that part of ourselves when we're constantly in fight or flight mode. So this calming, the way in, we talked about the way into the nervous system is through breathing. So the nervous system will react or respond to anything that's stimulating us, whether that stimulation is positive or negative, whether that stimulation is nurturing or dangerous, the body will respond. But we could respond back to the nervous system just through the simple act of breathing. And that opens up some space. So we feel that in the practices. We start feeling the space open up, and we notice that we have now more access into the prefrontal cortex. We have more access into problem solving. We have more access directly into the creative mind, which now is open and free, instead of being blocked by the chemical reaction. But when we're stuck there, when we're in that chemical reaction all the time, what happens to the system? What do you think?
Worn down.
Yeah, it breaks down, right? Our nervous systems completely break down, right? That's why anxiety is so prominent in today. If we're constant, the adrenals completely break down. They don't know how to regulate anymore, right? They think that everything is now a threat. So our bodies can't tell the difference between being chased by a lion in the jungle and being stuck in traffic, right? But we could respond. We could notice when things are flaring up, when we're feeling triggered, and we could talk to the nervous system to calm it down and calm the system from creating more of a stress response. And the more we do that over a long period of time, the more we can tap into the stressors when we first notice that the body's responding. So that's why we look at the body, right? That's why we look to see how the body's responding when we're noticing we're distracted, right? When we're noticing sound. A few weeks ago, I was practicing, and we have, I don't know if any of you live in the back mountain, but we have this like alarm that goes off twice a day, like around noon and around 6, right? And it's only a test. It's very strange. I think it's because we're near the prison. But I was practicing, and it was right around noon, and I just, you know, it was really quiet in the house. Nobody was home. It was just me. The dogs were all settled. And in the middle of my practice, this alarm goes off outside, and it's very loud. And it was so interesting to feel the vibration of that sound inside my body and to watch how my body was responding to the alarm, right? And then being able to navigate that response in a really conscious way in that present moment was very interesting, right? So that's why we practice, because it lets us see everything that's happening. How did you notice when we were practicing, did you notice the layers of sound when we opened up the sense window? Isn't that interesting? A practice in and of itself. So I don't know about you guys, but I don't do great in very crowded spaces. So especially large groups like concerts, things like that in public, it gives me a little anxiety. And that practice specifically has helped me tremendously feel more supported when I'm noticing that I'm very overstimulated. Even New York City could be pretty overstimulating, right? So when we're out in the streets, if you just open to it and pause and just kind of let it in and notice the layers of sound, there's always space there. So even though there might be very loud noises and it could be a more dense experience, we could attune ourselves to notice the space between the sounds or the layers of space between the sounds. And there's always space available to tune into, right? So just by starting to practice that in a gentle way, in a more formal way, we can tap into that when life gets really busy and more dense and really loud, right? So all of these little pieces of the practice play a very big role in managing our systems. So you'll hear that the yogis could calm their heart rates, right? Or stop their hearts completely, or stop the breath completely. All these things that these mystical people do. You could do it too. It's just not quite as mystical as we're told it was. It's just learning how to speak to the nervous system through the qualities of the breath, which is a great segue into what's next. So the micro practices, what we talked about last time, is understanding the qualities of the inhale, understanding the qualities of the exhale, and understanding how to lean into those qualities when we need it. The third quality of breathing is the space between the inhale and the exhale as a practice, as a micro practice. Okay? So let's give that a try. So sit up tall. And remember, this is not a meditation, so this is what we call pranayama. Okay? Prana is life force. So we talked about that, chi, we could also call it. But in this case, this is a Sanskrit word. So it's an ancient language in India. And prana means life force. And yama means control of. So pranayama is control of the life force energy. So that's what we're doing in these micro practices by incorporating breathing. So the same qualities of the breath will be here. The inhale, we will feel that vividness, that aliveness, that energy coming in. On the exhale, we'll feel that relaxing quality, that letting go, how the body responds to that. But I'm really interested in now letting you guys see what's there in between. So this space in between. So let's look at it, practice it, and then we'll talk about it. All right, so just close your eyes so that we kind of come in and take just 3 full deep breaths on your own. Just noticing the qualities that are there right now that feel supportive. And just really allowing this last exhale to empty out completely. Now we'll breathe in together for the count of 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Last hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last one. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just relax for a moment and return to your natural rhythm. Notice the quality of the mind. And open your eyes. Okay, how was that for you guys?
Difficult.
Yeah, it's a practice, okay? It's a practice. What part of it was hard for you?
I don't breathe in that long.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I think I breathed too fast.
Yeah.
The in was like.
The in was hard. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Were you breathing in and out of the nose or the mouth?
I tried both. I started with the nose originally,
Okay,
and then at the end, I went to the mouth because I didn't feel I was getting enough.
oxygen. Okay, good. So I want you to just not let go of that method and just focus on breathing in and out of the nose until you could breathe in and out for 3 beats. Right? So just try to get to the 3 beats in, 3 beats out first. And then we can start adding. Okay, so it's baby steps. Okay? When you could move the breath in a way, so I'm going to demonstrate something. So there's a breath called Ujjayi Pranayam, and Ujjayi Pranayam means victorious breath. And it's a way to move breath into your body, which requires a little effort, but infuses oxygen into the lungs in a more concentrated way. Okay, so just let's all do this together. Put your hand up, and pretend this is a mirror. All right, and so now bring it to your mouth and fog the mirror up. Like, you know how you fog a mirror? So pretend you're fogging it. Notice the back of the throat and do it again. Now try that through your nose. And do it again. Notice the back of the throat. You guys feel that? So there's this constriction that could happen at the back of the throat. And we could learn not only how to constrict the back of the throat for the breath moving out, but for the breath moving in. So for pranayam, you'll hear me, and I'm going to really exaggerate it so it's not normally this loud, okay? So. Okay, so you heard the inhale. It's like a soft swirling sound, sometimes called ocean breathing or Darth Vader breath. Okay, and all we're doing is we're constricting the back of the throat. It concentrates the breath moving into the back of the throat, and then the oxygen moves down into the lungs. Okay, so it's also a way of cleaning out the lungs by doing this, by pressing all the breath out. So we'll continue working with it, but I'd like you to practice that constricting feeling in the back of the throat and just those beats. So I tap my foot when I don't know if you guys heard that, but that's how I'm keeping count. So finding a count that's working for you, and just start by counting in, breathing in for 3, breathing out for 3. That will harmonize the system. Breathing in for 3, pausing for 3, and then breathing out for 3 is a great place to start. Try to extend that exhale to 5. So 3, 3, and 5, if that 5, 5, and 7 was too much. But that's what we were doing. So it was 5 and 5, then we went to 5 and 7, and then we went to 5, 5, hold, 7, exhale. The reason we hold the exhale longer is because of the relaxing quality there. So by extending the exhale, by dragging it out, it starts to calm the system more, all right? We wanna be very careful not to inhale longer than the exhale, because what's happening then? Right, we're hyperventilating. We could hyperventilate, which we don't wanna do. That's not gonna calm the system, okay? So make sure that that exhale is either even with the inhale or longer. All right, we don't want the inhale to be longer. What did you notice with the hold? Anybody notice anything there?
Like floating almost?
There's space there. Yeah, there's space available there. We could pause. The pause becomes really powerful. It's in that pause where we start to notice that we're in control. That something beyond the mind is there and in control from an authentic kind of space, right? So that quiet space is a place that I want you to get familiar with. I want you to get to know. It's within that pause where all our power is, right? That Viktor Frankl quote. You guys familiar with that? Viktor Frankl was a Jewish man in the Holocaust. He was a doctor, and he wrote about his experiences there. And he said, it's in the pause where our freedom resides. That's where our power is. That's where our power and our freedom is. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm just paraphrasing. But it's a beautiful pause, or a beautiful thought, that's where it all is. And that's what we're trying to cultivate. We're trying to get out of the stress response by recognizing when we're triggered, by recognizing when the system's overwhelmed, so that we could create enough space, ground, and reconnect. Okay, so the micro practice for this week is to notice when we're in fight, flight, or freeze. And instead of feeding that, we attend to the body, we attend to the breath, and we befriend what's happening. So open to the experience, but staying connected. We connect first, right? Because that's when we can attend to the experience in a calm way and notice that there's always space available there to respond in an authentic way, to redirect, to shift gears, to change the channel instead of to feed that fight or flight that's happening. Okay, so we're just learning how to be. We're learning how to pause, to watch, to notice when the body responds, to notice how the breath responds, to understand fully, experientially, what the qualities of the breath are so that we could use them where it's appropriate. So where would that space be appropriate in a micro practice? Where could you imagine using it? Anybody?
I mean, honestly, just what John said, sitting in front of the computer.
Right.
Anytime, like, you know.
Anytime we're feeling that crunch, guys, anytime, and we feel it, you know, I felt it coming here today. I was really crunched, you know, does that always happen to you guys? When you're getting ready to walk out the door, everything's on time, you're ready to go, and then whoosh, things blow up, right? Somebody else needs you, or 10 other people need you. That's a crunch, right? So your body starts to respond. The heart rate changes, the breath changes, and the body changes. And what happens in the body is that if we're not acknowledging how the body's changing, it'll stay there. It'll get rigid there, right? That's why we have knots in our shoulders, right? That's why the body starts to break down and take different shapes that aren't healthy. So there is a movement practice this week too, which will be sent to you on like Thursday, at the latest Friday, but you'll see a short clip, a 10-minute video that'll be uploaded on YouTube that you could do with me. Okay, practice with me, right? But just some suggestions there on how to work with the body, because we have to get the trauma out. It's there, right? And when I say trauma, it doesn't have to be something like your worst things that happened in your life, right? Or that you could imagine. Trauma is anything, any stress that is being held in the body. Okay? And we can start seeing it inside of all of us. We'll see it. You'll see it inside of you. You're going to start noticing it in other people too. Right? How many people, what do you do when you see somebody that's like this, like 25, and they walk around like this? There's something going on there, right? Physically, they're holding trauma inside their bodies. And we're seeing it in younger people more and more now because of our lifestyles, because of the pressure they're under. Okay? So a couple more things, because we're already out of time, which seems crazy. So I want you to really, really work on your motivation this week, and remember to plant preciousness into every day. So I'd like you to write about it a little in your journal. What's precious to you in this life? Where are your precious moments? What are the people? Who are the people around you that are precious? What is the work that you do that's precious? Right? What things around you are precious? Those things don't have to be materialistic things. They could be things in nature. Okay, so I want you to really open up to that. What does preciousness mean to you? So upon waking, I have 2 dogs that I love. You know, they're my precious little beings. I spend more time with them than my children or my husband, right? So they're very precious. And they sleep next to me on the floor, on their beds. And so when I wake up, I see my German Shepherd, and he's precious to me. And that plants the seed of preciousness into my mind, because he won't always be there, right? He's 4 years old, but right, he's there right now, and that's what's important. Okay, so planting that seed of preciousness, because that's really going to start revealing intention and motivation, right? Intention, motivation, authenticity. So preciousness reminds us not to waste one moment of this life. It plants us right into the now, because whatever it is that's precious in front of you can be gone tomorrow, right? So we start thinking about impermanence. Do not, through one moment of non-awareness or one emotional obstacle, waste the potential of transformation, right? The obstacles will come and they will go, but don't let that stop you from transforming, right? We don't let it stop us. Planting preciousness as our first thought is the ground of enlightenment. That's where we start. These lessons that I'll learn, and I'll give you 4 throughout our experience, are called the 4 mind changings. Okay? So they are so powerful, these thoughts, that they could change completely our minds and where we put our minds throughout our days, throughout our life. And it reminds us that life must be acted upon, right? So we stop delaying the things that are precious in life. What are the goals that you had when you were 12? Who did you want to be, right? Remember that. Remember that. Stop putting it off. So these thoughts, these 4 mind changes lead us from this space of basic awareness, which is where we operate 90% of the time, whether or not we're a practitioner of mindfulness. We're mostly in basic awareness. We're getting things done. We're moving throughout our day. We're doing our work. We're attending to our to-do list. The practices bring us from this space of basic mind into spaces of basic awareness. I may have called it the wrong thing getting started. So basic mind is where we get all the things done. And the practices bring us from basic mind into basic awareness. We start opening up into what is happening right now with this seed of preciousness planted, which aligns us into intention and motivation to continue to grow there, because we can grow there. We could grow basic awareness into more spacious awareness, into warm-hearted awareness, right? Into that space of the bodhicittas that I mentioned before. Not only wanting it for ourselves, but wanting it for everyone, right? That's the idea. We don't want to hold it in. We want to spread it out, okay? If you find, so we talked about the method of using the whisper of the breath. If you find that you're really having a hard time with it, that you're putting too much effort into method, then I want you to soften and swallow down into belly, into this spacious belly space, okay? The practice that you'll have in the recording today will hone in on a concentration method that I want you to only use for the lead meditation. So the concentration method is called shamatha. It is using counting to start working with the breath in a different way. You could still use that whisper, okay? But see how that goes for you. We're going to be moving into that concentration method next, and we'll be starting to work with the body next in a different way. So that's why the body practices are going to come this week. I want you guys to start moving trauma. Very simple. You won't need a yoga mat. You don't need to wear yoga clothes. These are all just moving energy in your body so that you start feeling it not only moving within you, but out of you. Some of that tension and stress that you're holding on to, okay? Lastly, when we plant preciousness, we're reminded of this non-mistake mentality. So as these triggers come up, as these emotional obstacles present themselves, as we have to deal with the difficult people in our lives, because not everyone in our life is easy, think of them instead of an obstacle, think of them as a non-mistake. They're here as a teacher, right? A reflection or mirror of you or something inside of you that needs to come up to surface. Okay, so it's a different way of shifting. We're always looking for these tools to use to take us out of this basic mind into this space of awareness, this wakeful mind, okay? So everything is helping me. Do you guys like Trevor Noah? Is anyone a fan of Trevor Noah? Yeah, there's a book that he has. I'll send you the link to it. And it's just a quick read. It's only like that thick. But when he was working really hard, he's from Australia, and he's a black colored person, and the Aborigines there are very separate in their culture. And so when he was working really hard to kind of break barriers, he just saw every barrier that came up as a non-mistake, that barrier was there to help him, that was there to serve him. And so he stopped thinking of the difficult things happening in his life as stopping him, but accelerating his goals and accelerating his success in life. So we could shift the vantage point. We could shift the mind. We could stop taking the mind as truth always. We don't have to believe everything that the mind is serving up. In fact, we shouldn't. Okay, so start questioning what's going on, all right, and feeling into a body felt sensation of what's you're actually experiencing, all right? All right, that's a lot to pack in for today, so I'm going to stop there. There's one more practice of journaling, and this journal prompt is something I'd like you to write freely with, not daily, just once, okay? And the prompt is, what does it mean to me to be truly alive? What does it mean to me to be truly alive? So really try to write it down, okay? So try to give yourself even like 10 minutes. Just set your alarm on your phone for 10 minutes and free write. Even if you start writing by saying, I don't like free writing. I wish she wasn't making us journal, okay? Write it down, because I promise something will happen, even if it doesn't happen right now. Even if a word comes out, that it may surprise you. It's really powerful, okay? So you have a lot to work with today. You're going to get an email later today with some storytelling, articles, like everything that you received last time. What questions do you have before we break?
If we wanted to rewatch like the first session and the second session, how do we do that?
I could send you the link and you
Okay.
can distribute it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
And they're available, I think they're up and available for 4 weeks. Let me check on, it may be 4 months. Let me just check on that for you. I'm not sure. But I know that the first video is still on there.
Okay.
And you have the first video, right?
Yeah, I've gone back.
Okay, good. And we could definitely distribute. I don't think I have a pen handy.
Here.
Please. Thank you. Thanks anyway. Yeah, let me just find out how long it's up. It's either 4 weeks or 4 months. Sorry, I'll grab. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. And I'll let you know. But I could send both links to you today.
Yeah.
Good question. What else? Any questions on what you're doing this week? Okay, so we're now starting at 5 minutes, minimum of 5 minutes, maximum of 7 minutes. Don't go above 7. So remember, we still want you to feel into these small bits and bites so that you start gaining confidence. If 5 minutes still feels like too much, drop down to 3. Okay, it's okay to stay there for a while because you're all going to feel different about these practices. So if 7 feels way too long, just try it once in the next 2 weeks, see how it feels. If 5 is a really nice sweet spot, stay there for a while. Okay? All right. The recording is about 9 minutes. It's not all 9 minutes of meditating. So remember, the guided meditations are there for extra support. The formal practice should be just with your timer and methods that we've talked about or practiced together. Okay? All set?
So we have the journal homework, 5 to 7 minutes of meditation,
Mm-hmm.
the practice of preciousness,
Yes.
right? And then practicing the quality breath with the pause.
Yes,
So
adding
3
the
beats
pause.
in, 3 beats pause, and then 3 or more beats of exhale.
Yes, now when you're doing the pauses, when you're practicing pranayama, start out with just your natural breath, then take a few deep breaths, and then start by counting, if you're working with 3 breaths in, 3 beats out. So not really breaths. 3 beats in, 3 beats out. Then see if you could go to 3 beats in and extend the exhale. Why don't I write it down for you? Because I don't think that's in the, I don't think the directions to that are in the homework.
Okay.
So let me send the directions to you.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, then extend the exhale, make it longer. Once you get a knack for that, add the pause. If it's too uncomfortable for you to add the pause for 3 beats, just notice a pause that feels comfortable there. It doesn't have to be an extended amount of time. It could just be a noticing that there's a pause between the inhale and the exhale. Okay? And I'll write that down so that you have the directions for it. Okay? Anything else? Sounds like somebody's here.
Oh, for the flowers.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, guys. Well, great job today. That's a lot. So just kind of let your mind settle with all that and reach out with any questions. Okay. So email me or call me. We can set up some time on the side. So that's included with all of this, that support. So I want you to really take advantage of it. If you want to do the one-on-ones, we could do that too. All right. Just let Liz know, let me know, and we could schedule it. That's when we could get into some, a little deeper work. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. I'm going to end the meeting. Thank you. I don't know if your dad's on there.
Yeah.
No, my sister is in town.